Want to know some more fun facts?
Isn't it awesome to see some of your favorite content creators and favorite people, honestly, you follow here on this app, be a part of this amazing community called the Nerd Initiative?
The Nerd Initiative presents the Comic Press Podcast, hosted by JJ's Comic Stuff.
What is going on, everybody? We got a little bit of technical glitches going on at the beginning, but what else is new here at the Comic Press Podcast? My name is Jeremy, your host, aka JJ's Comic Stuff, everywhere on the internet. I am joined by, yet again, my guest host, Michael Rothman, co-founder of Nerd Initiative, and we've got a special guest today. I am Batman915 from TikTok. This guy is the giveaway king over there as far as comic books are concerned. What's going on, man?
What up? What up? Hey, I appreciate that shout out. I just try helping out the comic community any way I can.
Oh, dude. I mean, when I first met you, dude, the first thing you asked me was, do you have any CGCs? And I said no. And a week later, there was one in the mail. I was like, what the hell?
It's because, like, for me, it's like, I don't really see it as like, all right, this is like a trophy. It's something we all like, whether it's Batman, Spider-Man, it doesn't really matter. It's just something that gives us joy somehow. And if I have a lot of joy, I'm going to give out a lot of joy. That's the way I see it.
It's awesome.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. It's how it should be. It's how it should be. Not always the case, but again, can't take it with you. It's all about having fun, making friends, and building a community around it. That's the name of the game.
Yeah, so I mean, if you guys are looking for non-gatekeepers, this is about as far away from gatekeeping as a person as you'll find. So speaking of that, let's get into this because I know you and me have talked about this on other shows and stuff like that, but people here at the Comic Press may not have seen or heard of you. So what is your nerd origin story, my friend?
Ooh. See, that's an interesting one because obviously I grew up, I was born in Texas. When I was young, I moved to Greenville, North Carolina, and there was like nothing, but that's when I was like small. But when I was about a kid, we moved to New York. We lived in Brooklyn for a while, and it was during the 90s, obviously. So it was like video games, arcade, comic books, like that's all that was surrounded us. Like I didn't really know what comic books were. I just saw like these bright, vibrant books. And I was like, wow, what are these? I would see kids reading them and I was always intrigued. So whenever I could, I'd be like, yo, let me see that real quick. And, oh, Wolverine, oh, the X-Men, oh, Justice League. Fun fact, my favorite character growing up was not Batman. It was Ghost Rider, just because I thought he was so cool. I was like, oh, he's a superhero, but he's like a demon. Not until the Batman animated series, I started watching that. That's when I really got into Batman.
Yeah.
I grew up on that. But I actually wanted to read more. So I as a kid, you don't really have money or the funds to go out and buy these books like other people do. You see them at newsstands or bodegas or wherever. And I found Midtown Comics. And from there, I was like, oh my goodness, this is heaven. This is what I wanted, surrounded. So I would talk to the owner any way I could. I was like, yo, how can I get books? I'll do whatever it takes. He was a really cool guy. He was like, I can't really obviously hire you. You're too young. I was like 7 or 8. I was doing whatever I could. So he was like, yeah, you want, help us out, organize these books, sweep the stairs, whatever. And I would just do whatever they asked. And every time I'd help them, they would give me books. And with those books, I would just read them. And I mean, that's kind of what got me infatuated with these characters and their stories and their origins and the diversity. The X-Men taught me like the diversity of people. It was so many good stories back in the early 90s to late 90s where I still hold true to this day. Like, that's why I never really care about who your favorite is or verses or none of that really matters. It's appreciation of these characters. And from from growing in Brooklyn, reading nonstop comics, I moved back here to Texas, and since then I've just been a super nerd, and spreading love. Like that's how I grew up, so that's how I wanted to keep helping and pushing that platform, helping either people who don't have platforms, people who do have platforms. It's not really a race or a advantage that I want. It's just the point where I knew when I was down, I wish somebody would have helped me, and it's okay if nobody did. But the fact that I'm here, and if I can help other people, I am.
That's dope because I've seen a couple, like, well, I can't even say a couple. I'd probably actually say a lot of people, like, especially on TikTok, they're saying like you or, you know, Cody or one of that group of people is like one of the first people that they've met as far as outside their own little circle of people in the comic book realm. And every time I hear your name come up, they're always like, he sent me a bunch of free stuff. Like he sent me a bunch of free books. I don't even know him. Like,
It's funny because that's my plan. Like I can show you my closet. I have pre-packaged box with CGCs in them ready to ship out to people. I have one that I need to send out to Long Box, Hillbilly, a couple different people, but I have probably like 15 CGCs ready to go. It's just shipping out.
I've got one on my wall that you sent me.
Insane. For those who don't know, how if you had to estimate how many comics do you have and how many slabs do you have? For those who don't know, because I know it's quite a lot. So I want to shock them with the number there.
It's to the point where I couldn't fit them in my apartment. Like my parents' garage are filled. It's filled, like filled with boxes. Short boxes, old school ones, new school ones. I have a certain area for CGCs. Things I forget about. Like I'll go and I'm like, oh, the first appearance of Ghost Rider. Oh, the first Black Panther. I forget I have these because I've had them for so long.
Oh my God.
I like reading them. So if we're talking about singles, because that's all I collect. I'm not into like I'm still old school. Single books, I don't know. I always say about 10,000 because I feel like that makes sense in my mind. But I think
there's stores that don't have 10,000 books in them, bro.
I have like 24 boxes that I counted last time that were just the short boxes. I still have long boxes and I have my CGC boxes. Wow. Then I have 3 on my kitchen table right now, and I have 8 in my closet. Yeah.
So awesome.
A lot.
And then you watch his haul videos, and like, you know, some people go to the store and they'll get like 5 to 10 books or whatever. He doesn't come back with a bag. He comes back with a box. Like I've seen him go out of his car in videos with whole boxes of books.
So great.
For his weekly haul. I'm like, bro, that's a month and a half's worth of books.
It's funny because I came back from the comics. I went to 2 comic stores and I bought a full short box.
See what I mean? Like,
I bought.
This is one of the few people that can rival my Momoko collection on any given day because he's buying and reselling them so often.
Oh yeah, and then I have a couple of her signatures too.
I know we got a giveaway going on for that on my TikTok channel right now.
I still need to get something signed by her, but I want to get it in person. Like supposed to get signed by her at NYCC, and then we know what happened there, and so that
was a madhouse.
Yeah. Hopefully C2E2 is run better than that. But my last question would be, and this is a tough one, right? Like this is the low hanging fruit question. Is there, it doesn't have to be on value. It doesn't have to be, you know, whatever. Is there a book or a couple of books that stand out to you that might be tied to a memory or tied to something like really amazing that are your top books, right? That mean the most to you because of, you know, whatever. Like, again, like I always say, I still have one of the few books I still have from my childhood is the Superman 75, with the black poly. It's still in the black poly bag. I don't know how it's still in there. I think we might have a frozen. There we go. Wait.
Oh no, hold on. The
have...
wonders of live broadcasting, ladies and gentlemen. Give us just a moment here.
There he is.
Yep, it looks. I was seeing connection issues on your end, Batman. I can't hear you, man. Oh no.
Wouldn't be an episode if it was, if there wasn't some kind of technical difficulty.
Oh, 100%. So, Michael, while we try to fix Batman, yeah, hold on. I can't hear him at all.
That's awesome.
Hang on. We are going to get this handled, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm-hmm. Bear with
So
us,
why don't you update people on what's going on down for C2E2 while I try to fix these technical difficulties here?
So, yeah. So, wow. Week from today is the start of C2E2. WonderCon is starting this weekend in California. And then we will be at C2E2 next week in full force. As many as 10 of us are going to be there. Gonna have a booth, which will be amazing, and a trivia panel for MCU trivia, which was lots of giveaways, and just all kinds of crazy stuff that's gonna go down. And so I'm excited and anxious at the same time, but it's gonna be a huge, probably our biggest, not our biggest, but our biggest like convention moment. A few of us have been out to NYCC and Awesome Con and some other ones. This one, we're going all out. So it'll be great. I cannot wait. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. I think we've got Batman back working. Yeah. Yep. I can hear you. I think we're good.
Yeah. My bad. I don't know who was like blowing up my phone. I just like muted notifications.
No
hey,
problem.
Dude, you just gave us a great clip for social media, so don't even worry about it.
So I did hear the last low-bearing fruit.
So yeah, I was going to say low-hanging fruit is there, and it doesn't have to go on value. It doesn't have to go on, whatever. Are there a couple of the books that you hold near and dear, and they could be tied to like a moment, a situation, something in your childhood? Are there... And this is a tough question when you have 10,000 books and you're forgetting that you have Marvel Spotlight 5 and Fantastic 452. But is there a book that like sticks out to you that's tied to something? It could be family. It could be, an experience as a kid, or it could just be, hey, this is a book I've always wanted. Is there one or two that stick out to you in your collection?
There's always going to be those books that have personal meaning or have stories that you can kind of relate to in life. There's quite a bit, honestly. I've thought about this a long time, and that's so weird that you bring up that question. Batman 121, in case you don't know, is the first appearance of Mr. Freeze. I love that book. I recently acquired it this year, and I've been like super happy about it. But I didn't really care that it was a first appearance because it was like Mr. Ice or whatever. The fact that when I was growing up in New York, one of my friends, his mother passed away because of an illness. And I remember he would always like kind of like talk to me and wish he could help her. And every time I rewatched the Batman animated series episode, like Heart of Ice, where Mr. Freeze kind of goes on about how he cares for his dear wife, Nora, it resembles that sorrow I kind of felt for my friend. And I was like, yo, that's a crazy story, because Mr. Freeze isn't necessarily a villain like Joker or Ra's al Ghul. He's doing it for love. And I really respect that story and that origin kind of, and it just makes me appreciate the little things a little bit more.
Because he's one of those villains, the rare villains for Batman that isn't just a random psychopath. You know, he's not just some random homicidal maniac doing this for no reason. He has, you know, in his mind, and probably most people's opinion, a pretty legitimate reason for doing what he's doing.
And it was just one of those you kind of can, I personally could relate to because of that like situation when I was young. I was like, yo, that's crazy. And then watching that episode, like I would tear up. I was like, I felt bad for him because he was my best friend at the time. So it was just one of those connections. I was like, I really, and that's what kind of got me further into Batman. The fact that yes, there's always going to be sorrow or pain or obstacles you have to overcome, but knowing you can take it and knowing you can be better and push yourself to those limits to always overcome all those little things and inconveniences, speed bumps, if you will, in life, and just prosper and help, whether it's a Robin, Jason Todd, or Dick Grayson, help someone else get out of where they are to be better.
And it's, I mean, we pulled it up a second ago, I'll pull it up again. It is a dope cover too. And it's, Mr. Zero. I mean, it's a super cool cover. There's some that just kind of like stick with you, right, over time, for certain reasons. And Batman has quite a few.
I've always liked how that helmet on that cover in particular, it looks like a giant just mason jar on his head. like it's just so simple compared to this huge mech'd out, you know, freeze suit that he's got later on.
Yeah. And that's a weird one too, because what the cool thing about that one also is, what year is that? Because that's not quite Golden Age, not quite Silver, which is also really cool. Like Batman has some of the interesting things from Batman is I'm trying to look up the year. Of course, I can't find it, but is that because obviously it's been around for so long. There's some cool things that like you would think are Golden Age, because like you would assume Mr. Freeze is a Golden Age character, right? And he's kind of, but kind of not. Like I think it's the 50s,
he came
right?
out in like that weird transition period from like 48 to 52, somewhere in there.
Yeah. I'm always fascinated by that era too, because that's pre-code horror as well. And so it's just really cool. It is 59. So you're talking before anything Marvel put out, way before, 2-3 years. But then also it's post, almost 15-20 years since Batman had been around. So I always am fascinated by that gap, because you think of, I think, the everyday comic book fans always think of like, think of DC, and they think of, they might see Marvel, just Marvel, and they're like, oh, it started in the 60s, that's where it is. And they don't realize that there's like a whole world before that, like Batman and Superman and all the characters come there. And even the Golden Age Marvel books, the Timely Comics ones. So I'm always fascinated by those and so, yeah, same thing with, I think, what's another one that was like that? What, Scarecrow didn't appear in Batman for the first time? He appeared in World's Finest, right? I'm always fascinated by that. Yeah. So sorry,
that's so crazy.
Hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna shut up now. I'm gonna shut up now.
You're good, man. All right. So speaking of that cover over there, it's a nice little segue to go into this. Who is your current favorite cover artist? Now, getting an answer from Batman on this was like trying to get a kidney out of your estranged stepbrother that hates you. Like, because he does collect so many different comics from so many different eras. He's like, I don't know, man. But I finally got a single answer out of him. And that was Frank Cho.
Ooh.
So I'm interested.
Sorry for that random noise alert.
No, you're good.
Talk amongst yourselves. I'll pull up some receipts of something with Frank Cho that I just got, which I'm really excited about. But you guys talk about this.
But yeah, so why Frank Cho, Batman?
I mean, I appreciate the fact that you asked me that question, because it really made me think, because you said what threw me off the most wasn't picking or whatever. It was current. Current is always difficult for me, because I'm like, because off the top of my head, my favorite Batman artist, like cover artist, is Neil Adams. Everything Neil
Ah.
Adams I have. I love his artwork. Love it. Every depiction, I was like, whoo. But when you ask current, it was like, Peach Momoko's up there. And then I was like, oh, Frank Cho is really good. Like the current Poison Ivy covers, they're fantastic. They're fantastic. Every time I picture one coming out, it's exactly what I want. It hits the areas that other artists are kind of missing, where it kind of shows the simplicity, but at the same time, it makes you want to engage and read this book, because whether it's Punchline, the Punchline covers are fantastic. Harley Quinn covers, fantastic. Everything Frank Cho is putting out right now, I love every cover so far. Don't get me wrong, there's tons of great current artists, but right now I think Frank Cho is hitting the mark every time.
I'm pulling up some Neil Adams covers. You guys know I love my job as stat boy, kind of working the back ends. So I'm pulling up some of my favorite. I mean, the classic Neil Adams, like, can't go wrong.
I can't.
When I picture Batman in my head with no other visual cues, I picture Neil Adams artwork.
Thank you. I have all these books, but by the way,
love this cover because I know it's an homage to the
Detective Comic.
Yeah. Oh, which is what, like, that's like 30. You might even have that book probably. It's like a 30.
No, that was like 39, 38 or something like that when that came out.
That's a
years. The original years.
So yeah, Neil Adams is just
he really understood Batman. I think that's what really got me. Like I didn't, like I was telling you before with my origin, I didn't really like get into Batman until I watched the Batman animated series. After that, because I was born 92, that show came out what, 92?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was maybe like 4 or 5 when I started like kind of like getting into it. And then by 8, I was obsessed. And I was like, yo, Batman is the coolest. He has no powers. And he's beating Killer Croc and Clayface and Mr. Freeze and Joker. Joker's always been an iconic villain, but Bane personally was always my favorite.
Bane. Loved Bane. I got so excited when I remember 2011 and the trailer started coming out for Dark Knight Rises. And I didn't remember, this is probably now 2011 is Twitter's around, but that's about it. Facebook is whatever. So we don't have all the things that we have now, the access to talk about this stuff and break it down and the things that we have now. And so I remember just sitting there online watching the trailer and be like, wait, is that Bane? And I'm like, wait, what? There was no, the leaks weren't out there. This is pre all that stuff. It might have even been 2010. I don't know. But yeah, those are all good ones. This is a book I just picked up from Frank Cho, signed cover that I had to get. When I saw it, I was like, there's such a Frank Miller influence there. And I had to have it. So,
and it's like big, broody, bulky Batman too. That's cool.
Yeah,
the Miller kind of tribute to the Dark Knight Returns. Like, that's still one of my favorite stories.
Well, and I think everybody knows what I'm about to say for my favorite. If you know me at all, you know exactly what I'm about to say for my current favorite cover artist, and it's Peach Momoko.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, watercolor is insane by itself when it's done well, but I've never even thought about looking at watercolor artwork for comic books, and the way she does this stuff is outstanding.
Yeah.
100% agree. Like, nobody else is doing that type of work. I remember when I first saw a cover, I was like, who is this? I was read it, and I was like, who? Somebody had to tell me because I saw the little sign that she always
her signature. Yeah.
Who is that? Somebody's like, oh, it's Momoko. I was like, who's that guy? And it was like, no, it's a girl. Peach Momoko. I was like, Peach? Yeah.
And I mean, she's undeniable at this point. She's at her first year in 2021. Well, she debuted in 2020. And then in 2021, she ended up winning the Eisner and the Ringo for Best New Artist.
I saw that. And then she signed exclusively for Marvel, correct?
Right now, she's under contract with Marvel, but she's still doing covers for Image. She's still doing covers for Dark Horse and a couple other companies too.
Yeah, because she released only, I think, 9 or 10 different DC covers, and then she signed with Marvel. That's why I had to get all the DC ones. I was like, Batman, Robin. I had to get all
there's very, very few DC covers from Peach Momoko. I've got one of them. It's a cover of Deceased, but it's got Poison Ivy on the cover.
Oh yeah, that's Poison Ivy. What is it? Number 3? I forget. But
yeah, not from the current run, but from the previous run she had. But yeah, and then I've seen a lot of people like, I don't really like Momoko stuff. It looks too weird. I'm like, what's too weird about it? Like, I'll agree for certain covers, it doesn't necessarily always work, but when she's allowed to do what she wants to do, I mean, there's a couple different indie covers right there. One for Power Rangers, one for Blade Runner.
I mean, have you seen her new Darth Vader cover? Variant cover?
Oh yeah, I think I have.
And so this is the stuff that I love. Like, look, I think modern comics can be daunting, right? With all the variants and everything that comes along with it. But I do love when you can get a different look of your favorite book. I think that's where variant covers are at their best, right? Like, to kind of have someone that's not in the run per se, like, I'm thinking the one thing I can think of is the current Spider-Man run, which I know everyone hates, but it's Zeb Wells and JR. And but if you Google like those first issues, there's all kinds of variant covers there. So if that is your favorite current series, it's just amazing. And I'm pulling up the new Darth Vader. I mean, it's breathtaking. Like, I think it's just that's where variants can be really cool, where it's like, hey, I love this book. I want to get an alternate look. Also, what she does, I don't even know what little hidden treasures are in here currently, because clearly it's some kind of like Monet style situation where I'm sure if you zoom in really close on that cover, there's all these things that pop out, because clearly Vader's mask is not just a mask. There's like all kinds of
it almost looks like it's got bars and it's holding something behind it. Like, I bet if you zoomed in real close, there'd be something there.
It's interesting too, because her covers always remind me of a piece of art, because like, for example, when I first saw that cover, I was like, man, this is cool, because it resembles kind of like a skull, and at the same time represents Vader for being like the symbol of death, because nobody really crosses Vader in the comics.
Not if they want to walk away.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, because Vader's, when we see him in the movies, he's very lumbered, he's very old, he's slow, he's clunky. But in the comics, it's young Vader in his prime when he's still really mad.
Well, he's always mad.
Well, yeah, he's always mad, but you know what I'm saying. Like, he's at like peak power at that point.
Yeah,
in the comic books.
The comic books for Vader too also filled in so many gaps, which is amazing. But I'll shut up.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like, you don't get a whole lot of backstory with Star Wars characters, especially ever since Disney bought them out and said, nope, everything that came out in all the novels and comic books is now not part of the main continuity. We're going to restart all that.
It kind of upsets me, but at the same time, it's like, as long as you keep making Vader comics, I'll be happy. That's the simplest.
Right. And then we also had some viewers chime in with their picks for current favorite cover artists. We've got Trad Moore. We've got Todd Noak. Like, I mean, some of these are really not expected, but it shows that comic book fans we all like different stuff.
There's some
No Humberto Ramos on there. That's another one that's
Ramos's stuff is really good. I like that.
super slept on.
oh yeah. His variant covers for I have him over there for both Marvel Comics 1000 and Spider-Man 1000 or Amazing Fantasy 1000. Sorry. Get all the 1000s mixed up at this point. Are phenomenal.
Amazing Fantasy 1000 is another one of those that came out and it's got like 57 variant covers for it. Because Momoko did a Virgin variant for it that they did a 5,000 copy run of only, and I was lucky enough to grab one before they sold out.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be getting my Spider-Man and Eminem variants from CGC back soon, so I'll let you know, JJ.
Oh wow!
How
did that? I feel like every time I talk, I think it mutes like Batman's audio, so I'm like careful. But how did that process go? Because that was a really interesting situation, like grabbing that book, because that was such like one of those things where a lot of fans were upset they couldn't get their hands on that book.
You're 100% correct, because it was so stressful because they just told us what day it was coming out, but they didn't give us a time. They didn't tell us how. So I remember my son, he was going through YouTube, listening to music. He likes a bunch of different things. And then I was like, okay, he ran to his room. I started going through, and then a song from Eminem came on. I think it was Venom, because he likes Venom, the movie. And there was I was like, oh, there was a little advertisement, and it showed the cover and it said the date. And I was like, what is that? So I got off of YouTube, got on my phone, and I was like, there's an Eminem Spider-Man cover coming out. So I went to Eminem's website. It's like Marshall Mathers. And he was personally releasing 500 of them. So I was like, oh, no, I have to get one. He had the regular ones, and he had some signed from him. Don't get me wrong. I really tried getting the signed one, because right now they're like 3,000-4,000.
Crazy. Crazy.
Out within seconds, like not even 2 seconds, it was done. I had to get on my phone, my girl's phone, and my backup phone just to buy one of the regular ones.
Dang.
Yeah, it was. I was like, I need it. I don't care.
That's like trying to buy Taylor Swift tickets.
Yeah, it's a beautiful.
And there it is.
Look at all the characters in the crowd, from Daredevil, Luke Cage, Alice. Beautiful.
It's super cool. I mean, yeah, it's very, very cool.
Those, I mean, we've all seen Eminem do covers with Iron Man and Punisher, and you can see how rare those are now. I had to get one.
So I found a link to, and you're right, it's $2,000, but I found a link to a signed copy. I've never seen Eminem's signature, so this is interesting to me. It's just Slim, it's, you know, he's Slim Shady, right? And so it looks like just an S.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull this up. And
he does not sign stuff very often. Like he doesn't do meet and greets with fans. He doesn't do autograph signings. He does not do that stuff.
And you're lucky if you even get a copy of his signature, because when he went to his he's done shows and he'll do like signatures, but he charges people like $1,500 to $2,000 for a signature.
Wow.
But wow. I mean, he's up there for popularity. He's been around for so long.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. That much money for a signature.
Yeah.
There's certain celebrities out there. I'm like, do you really need to charge that much for a signature? With how much money you got in the bank, like, you really need to charge that much?
Mm-mm.
That's why I like the Star Trek actors. They all charge like $50-$60.
Yeah. I mean, what was it? It was I got my Hulk 181. Whether or not it's going to kill the value or not, it is what it is. But I sent it in to get signed by by Hugh Jackman for CGC. And that was probably the priciest signature I've ever paid for. I think he was charging like 500. And this is like an icon, you know, like this is Wolverine. This is one of the guys who started the whole culture of superhero movies. So I think that's my max, you know, like 1,500 is crazy.
It's going to actually go up because the last book that got an actor signature was the first appearance of Thor, the Journey into Mystery, signed by, what's his name? The guy who plays Thor?
Hemsworth. Yeah, Hemsworth.
That one, he signed it, they CGC'd it, and somebody sold it. I think it sold for almost 10,000.
Oh.
It's going to help your book, trust me. And that's a big book too.
Well, for me, yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing with collecting, right? For me, it's more about what the meaning it is, right? Like this is Hugh, like this is one of the guys who brought it off. Like much why I would like to get something signed by Toby down the road. And another guy who doesn't really do autographs, if you look online, Tobey Maguire is just like a tough get. Like he is
for years, he would like refuse to do press. He refused to do any kind of like cons or like anything.
Yeah. But it's for now, I agree with you. It's interesting. I think a lot of actor signed books are worth more, like a lot more, which is very interesting. But we'll see if that, I mean, it's so funny. Things change every day, right? I remember when you used to not be like, don't get, I think it was cards in the 90s, like don't get anything signed. It ruins the value. Like I had Barry Bonds cards and he doesn't do signatures either, but like, I remember like I had things like, and they're like, don't get it signed. Now, if you go look online and another hard get, an icon from our era, like Michael Jordan signed stuff is crazy. Like I would think that like, it's such a common, you know, he was around for so long and he
was one of the people who did do a lot of signatures for people.
If you have a PSA verified, like Jordan rookie or whatever signed by him, it's like, it's nuts. And so it's so funny how things change over time. Like I remember card people being like, don't get it signed. It's going to ruin the value. And things change over time.
It's crazy that you say that because even back in the day, for any comic book artist, nobody would like signing their name on the cover. I remember that they would actually open the cover and sign it on the inside.
It is impossible to find. And I only have one thing signed. Jack Kirby did not sign covers. He would refuse to sign covers.
Super rare. I've actually seen only one cover signed by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. This guy would not sell it though. He would not sell it.
Oh,
I don't blame him.
No,
that's an investment item.
Yeah,
right there. That's something you put in a safety deposit box. Like,
yeah.
I mean, Jack Kirby, he would not sign anything. I mean, I really want a Jack Kirby. I'm still on the look. I got everyone else, but Jack Kirby's one of the ones I'm like, I can't let him get away. I can't.
All right. That's a future segment for JJ. Is who's the top autographs that you want to get in the comic industry? Because I mean, we could go. I don't want to like derail it and go against the grain with what this says, but like I would love to get a Ditko. I feel like he didn't sign. You know, again, I think a lot of the older ones that passed before things got huge, there's not a lot out there, right? And I think Kirby, you know, left Marvel, went to DC in the 70s. And so, but he also, when did he pass? I think it was the 80s or the 90s. And so you look at like some of the icons that aren't a lot out there, like Ditko, Kirby. I mean, I was trying to look the other day, Bill Finger. Like, there's nothing out there from Bill Finger. Like,
nothing. I have Bob Kane's signature. I cannot find Bill Finger. I can't.
He's like a Van Gogh because he wasn't appreciated. So like, it's not out there. It's crazy.
I haven't seen very many Bob Kane autographs either.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of resketches from him though.
Yeah,
because I guess he was real famous for writing on like waitresses' napkins and stuff. Like, I created Batman, and then he'll do like a little Batman sketch and sign it and then hand it to her, and they'd have like no idea who he was or why he just gave them this napkin with Batman drawn on it.
So cool. That Bob Kane was the primary reason why Stan Lee came out of his shell to be more outwards with people and being like, oh, I'll sign that, or hey, what's up? I created Spider-Man, or stuff like that. Because before, Stan Lee was real like quiet, shy, kept to himself. I actually, from trading and interacting with so many people, I got the chance to meet some guy that moved here. He was in the military, but he used to have dinner, and he showed me photos with Stan Lee and Bob Kane, the older guy.
Oh man,
cool. He showed me his garage full of stuff. They would have sketching competitions with each other, and he would show me their sketches. I was like, oh, that's the one that has Stan Lee and Jack Kirby signature that I want so bad. He has Bob Kane's everywhere, Stan Lee's. It makes me so mad that he has so much stuff. But it's a really cool collection.
Yeah.
I cry every time I see it. I cry. I'm just like
Well, speaking of collections, we all have more than one artist that we like. So I made Batman choose 3 covers that are recent from artists that he really likes. I did the same thing. So that way everybody can see, as the slide says, top 3 covers from our favorite comic book cover artists. I got to figure out how to shorten that stuff sometimes, because sometimes these things are really long named. But anyway.
But I digress.
First one Batman gave me was Greg Capullo.
You can't
in
go
this
wrong.
cover of Batman and the Joker. I mean, that is so sick, dude.
I've always his work. He doesn't miss when it comes to Batman or Joker. He draws them so well that I can't help myself but to keep reading. I don't care if the story's good or bad. I just have to keep reading.
Yeah. That's an icon, Capullo. Like, I mean, he's
still grinding out work, like left and right. Like, he hasn't slowed down at all.
And Spawn, the Dark Knight Metal series, Batman and the Court of Owls, like everything he draws is so well. I love his shading alone. Even the darker areas kind of tell a story of what he's leading to. I love it. I love all his work.
I need to get that. I can't stop thinking about. Let's bring it back up real quick, because I'm going to have to order this at some point. It's so good. Hold on. So Batman and the Joker. It's so good. What a cover.
Beautiful. Look at his face. Look at the eyes.
Yeah. Oh,
it almost looks like he's wearing like a face mask.
Mm-hmm. Like in Death in the Family, where he cuts off his face and he puts it back,
staples it back on or whatever. Yeah,
it's cool because if you look at his eyes and his mouth, it really renditions to who is it? Jim Lee, the Hush storyline, the cover where Batman is the Joker and the Joker's eyes are like big and he's smiling. It kind of resembles that, but he just kind of makes it his own, and that's what I really appreciate about him.
I agree.
For sure. And then, well, we've already looked at that one. There we go. This is my current still favorite Momoko cover that came out.
Doctor Strange.
Out back in 2021. It was White Fox, The Death of Doctor Strange. It was a one-shot.
I'm sure Caption Life is loving that one.
Oh, yeah.
Huge Doctor Strange fan.
That's crazy.
And who else do we got in here? We've got Jorge Jimenez.
The whole Failsafe series, you can't go wrong. You can't.
He's another one, man. He's like the shading he does is so heavy, but it works.
Yes, and then he does this thing where he adds a lot of dark to his covers or his artwork primarily, but he throws in splashes of very vibrant colors to make it pop. And I love that. He really like gets your attention. Like if you need to look somewhere specifically, like right there, where do your eyes lead?
Straight to the yellow.
Exactly. That's what he wants you to focus on. So whether it's that or the depiction of Failsafe when he first comes out, you notice the red right away. Boom. You're like, he wants you. He knows where to draw your eyes. I think that's what he's he's gonna get really good at this. I already know he is.
Well, and then speaking of red, my next pick right here is David Nakayama, which he does a lot of red covers. But this one of
His
Scarlet Witch is so dope. How he managed to make that hair blend that well and then also like not blend into the background so much. Like it's not easy to work with that many similar colors and not make it all just bleed together.
See, that's where art is kind of thrown in, because David Nakayama, he knows whether it's the She-Hulk covers, X-Men covers, Scarlet Witch. He does. I love his Spider-Man work. All his Spider-Man David Nakayama covers, they're beautiful.
He did one. Was it Daredevil one where with the variant where Daredevil was in a spider suit?
Oh yeah.
That was a really good one. I should have grabbed that one. So we've got Lee Bermejo. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
You know what? I've never really got into him. I just really appreciated his covers. I was like, yo, who is this? And my boy Longbox, actually, shout out to Longbox on TikTok. He was like, oh, this is Lee Bermejo. I don't know if it's Bermejo or Bermejo, because obviously I'm Hispanic. I'm going to roll my R's. But I really, really do enjoy this man's artwork. It kind of brings some realistic forms of obviously like the villains, and he does a lot of Batman, a lot of Joker, but his realism, I love his realism. It brings like a different flow to a comic.
Well, and it's not that strange realism that Alex Ross tends to do sometimes, where it's like overly realistic to where like I've heard a couple people describe it as uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's right at the point right before. I truly understand what you're saying too, because people do say some renditions of Alex Ross get really in depth. He stops right before that. Like the with that cover alone, it's like the Joker's face. He's kind of like that sinister smile, and then to the right, that little kid crying, holding a little Batman toy. I love it.
That's
I
so
love
good.
every aspect.
That's so good.
It's such a Joker thing to do too. Like sit there, oh, kid's coming up in a Robin outfit. We got to make him cry. Like,
I mean, it's an eerie kind of art, but it's realism enough where you're like, oh, I can get into this. I can. All his Batman work is great, all of it.
And then my last one on here is going to be Megan Levins. She does a lot of work over at IDW and a lot of indie stuff, but specifically her work on Star Trek books lately has been phenomenal. If I don't know if you guys are Star Trek fans, but this particular series she's working on is a direct tie-in to the Star Trek Strange New Worlds television show. So this comics run takes place in between seasons 1 and 2. So it's like a continuation of the story, but during the season break, and then it's going to end right when season 2 starts on Paramount. But the likeness that she pulled off with everybody in these books is spot on. I mean, all these characters look exactly like the actors that play them. It's spooky. It's also, and her work's very vibrant and clean.
Is that watercolor too, or is that like more like that? It looks different from.
I believe it's a blend of hand done penciling, and then the color I believe is done digitally.
Okay,
but I could be wrong on that.
It's nice though.
Like I said, it gives off a Star Trek vibe, man. I mean, it's simple, it's clean, it looks just like the actors. You can't really ask for much more than that.
I really like their use of like bright, vibrant colors. And I did notice how you say actors look like that. They really do. They really do.
And I've seen a lot of books adapted from shows or whatever, or games, and like they look like the person, but they don't really look like the person. Like they give them extra muscle, or they give their hair extra like weird colors or something. Nope, she kept like, I mean, it looks like the actors, because I assume they're trying to stick to the story plot pretty intently. So, But anytime you can successfully tie in a comic book run to an ongoing show and like make it all actually in canon and, or continuity, whatever word you prefer on that one, dude, it takes a lot of attention to everything that's going on.
Mm. Also, there's something to be said for the fact that it's hard to not put your fully go nuts and put your own stamp on something, right? So if you're trying to stay in line with keeping it as close to the show as possible and the likeness as possible, you know, as an artist, I'm sure people want to like go crazy and do the Pichamoka effect, or, you know, or Frank Cho, or there's a myriad. So there is a talent to being like, I'm going to keep this in the vibe of the show or the movie that, you know, I'm emulating here. And that's something that's also commendable. We don't see enough of that these days.
Everybody tries to reinvent the wheel, and you don't need to. If it's something that's already working, just stick with it.
Yeah. That's an art form in itself as well.
Yeah. 100%. Because, you know, that's, as creatives, that's what we all want to do. We feel like we should do more. We need to add extra stuff. We need to do this. We need to do that. And sometimes it's keep it simple, stupid is the best thing you can keep in your head.
I got to put my stamp on it. I got to make my signature, you know, whatever. And it's like, oh, just.
And especially when comic book artists do that. And I'm just like, I get it, especially if it's like your first book or something like that. But at the end of the day, all these characters are already established, and there's going to be 100 other artists that work on this character after you're done with it. Exactly. So in order for you to really make your stamp on it, you've got to be given 100% creative control over it, which is never going to happen somewhere at Marvel. It's never going to happen over at DC. And it can't happen with properties like Star Trek, Star Wars, stuff like that, because there's a established lore and backstory to these characters and places. But yeah. So I think that's about all we've got for today, guys. Batman, do you want to plug anything before we get out of here?
I mean, obviously, if anybody
best name on YouTube right there. I'm sorry.
This crime got sticky.
As long as, I mean, I don't know how the whole TikTok thing is working. I think we should be fine. But if it is, I mean, follow me on TikTok. I am Batman915. If you're a small creator, a big creator, doesn't matter. If you need help or finding books or even looking into CGCs, shoot me a message. I'll help you out. I give out stuff like these guys said all the time.
Constantly. I hit him up like, hey, what should I do for a giveaway prize? He's like, well, I got CGCs. So he's providing the prize for my giveaway.
Yeah, I was like, I have stuff. Don't worry about it. I was like, how many you need? Just one.
You know, a man has a lot, or a person has a lot of comics when they call them CGCs, because it's like they're delineating the raw books from the graded ones, and then probably, oh, I got some CBCSs, don't worry, or whatever. Or like for me, it's
the fact
like
that you can categorize them all.
The fact that I probably have under my personal collection, maybe under like 200 or whatever, but they're all just comics. They're not like divvied out by the grade. Like, I could see you being like, yeah, I got a couple 9.6s. Like, that's how many probably has. He has to categorize them by grade and company.
I really did try. I had like a box of like 9.2s and 9.4s and 9.6s, 9.8.
That's awesome.
It's a lot of work.
I was like, sure.
Too much.
You know what we need to do, and I know we're live, but like, hey, this is fun. This is YouTube, whatever. Oh, it's next weekend. We're gonna be. We already talked about this, or we're not here. We did it offline. Next weekend is the huge heritage auction. I don't know if you guys have seen this. They have a Marvel Comics 175.
They have 2 copies of Superman #1 going.
It's silly. I think
they've got first appearance of Batman in there. They've got I'm pretty sure there was an Amazing Fantasy 15 in there.
Well,
yeah, there's all these just huge mega key books.
We do have to plug our friends at our good friends at Golden Auctions. So at C2E2, and Batman's going to lose his mind with this. I'm trying to pull up the inventory sheet. If I have it here somewhere, here we go. What they're bringing to C2E2. JJ, have you seen this yet or no? As I showed.
Yeah, you sent it to me, I think, a couple days ago.
It's nearly 10 million worth of comics. So they do have a Tech 27, a 6.5. They're gonna have there. They have I think there's gonna be a Batman 1. There's a Batman 37, and a 9.2, a Tech 35. It's just insane. And then they have an Action 1 and a Superman 1. No, they have 2 Superman 1s. I'm sorry, apologies.
2 Superman 1s and Action 1.
It's nuts. I'm looking at their display sheet, and it is insane. So that will be a fun booth to stop by and look around, because
I'll get it one day. Detective Comics 27. And I know for a fact I'm going to really try to stick to Golden Age Batman soon. I'm actually working out a deal to get either Batman issue 2 or Batman issue 7.
Oh,
I mean, both are old. So
yeah.
Like 40s.
And they're cool too. I mean, I just found, I need to pull it up again. I was going through, so I have a page from Batman 1. I have it over, if you can see it over there by that little setup. So I have a page. So if people that know Batman 1, so it's the first appearance of Joker. And there are 2 Joker stories in those old comics, whether it be action, detective. They always had like 4 or 5 stories in there. I think it's funny that they had Joker. Like, they didn't even know how popular he was. He opens up the book, and then there's a filler story with Batman, and then it's return after he goes to jail. It's the return of Joker. And so it's like they really leaned into it. But there's I recently just saw, I'm going to pull it up, the first shot of Joker. And it is, I mean, look, 80 years later, it holds up. I need to pull it up, like in the interior of the book, the splash page. I got it. It holds up, and it is still, and a lot of the stuff in that book is pretty interesting too. I've like digitally read it. It's just fascinating because, I mean, this is history. This is 80 years ago. It's just so much fun to look back. Let me pull this up real quick, and then we can call it a day. But I just wanted to.
Oh no, you're good, man.
That's the first ever interior shot of the Joker in Batman 1. That's the splash page. And yeah, the face looks cool.
It's still pretty close to what they're using today. I mean, that's wow.
It's just nuts. So yeah, it's just super cool.
And it's crazy that you say that you have one of the pages. Do you know what was it? I think it was page 9. Just the page CG Seed sold for 10,000 not too long ago.
Oh my god, that's insane. Yeah.
That's one page.
Yeah, I didn't pay that.
He said, I found a deal.
Well, mine, it's like a brittle page. It's got tape on it. I got it for a couple $100. I was like, this is a super cool, and it has Joker on it. Because there's some pages that don't, right? So like, I can't imagine what this splash page goes for. Because again, we know Batman 1 goes for in the hundreds at any grade, right? So that's got to be a $20,000 page, easy.
Oh yeah,
which is nuts.
It's insane
for a
too.
Piece of paper with ink on it. Like at the end of the day,
the fact that they sell individual pages. I was telling my wife, and she's kind of on the border, but I was telling her, I was like, I'm gonna buy every single page, break it out of the CGC, put it all together, and send it off.
Yeah.
Because they'll still grade it even without all the staples, right?
Well, what you could do also, there's people on social media. I don't know if you've heard of Sanderson Studios, and he's one of the top guys, and he'll post the stuff that he gets in. is epic. Like Marvel Comics 1, actually, like, and what he does is he conserves a lot of them. And so for those who don't know out there, you have restoration, which is, basically making a book better and there's changes to it, whatever. Conserving, I guess I don't even know much about it, but it's like leaf casting. So you could put them all together and have a conserved Batman 1, which is insane. And basically he'll naturally add stuff that you can, I guess with restoration and conservation, you can dissolve the conservation. Like it's meant to keep it from falling apart further. Or restoration, like I've seen restoration, like I've seen a 9.6 Amazing Fantasy 15 that has severe clearly, like that's and it was a lot cheaper, but it's basically there's no going back from what you did, like the trimming and the color touch.
I've seen people
it's like a piece of art.
I've seen people paint the color on the covers trying to like make it look like it's brand new. I'm like, you're never gonna do that with paint. Like it's never gonna look right.
But conservation, so Sanderson Studios, it's really interesting what he can do. And that's fascinating because he would 100%. I don't know much about this either. And this is something we should dive into in the future. Because what he could do is take all those pages and do the leaf casting and put it together. And it would be a conserved book instead of a restored book. But I don't know much about getting the facsimile covers. I don't know how, like, if you got a coverless book, I've seen it. And I think I did a video recently about 0.5 collecting. If you can get the front cover, you can get a really good deal on some like iconic books. And you just, for display purposes, like if you got a book, it's a cool book. Like it's great. Like
Who cares if it's all separate pages in one stack? Like
yeah, it's a 0.5 and it's yeah. I don't know much about facsimile covers, and I want to learn more because some people will take coverless books and what they'll do is they'll get, I don't know if you do it yourself or if like you can find someone who does it for you. I don't know what the routine is, and then they'll have it put on there, and then now you basically, the label will say it like this is a facsimile cover, no grade, whatever it is, but you still got the book, and you can look, you're like, hey, that's the real book. Yeah, it has a photocopy, a color copy of the cover, but I don't. That's all stuff that I want to. We should dive into in the future because I think that's fascinating stuff and it's like super interesting. All those different modes of that. So,
100%.
Oh yeah, I actually talked to an older gentleman that I know that he kind of taught me the difference between the green label and the purple label, and what you're talking about. So like the purple is when people get a comic and they're like, it has some markings on it. Let me paint a little black in there on the black area. It's gonna come back purple because you're using.
It's been re-inked.
Yeah,
exactly. It's been restored somehow, but obviously in ways that they didn't back in the day. The green label is a little bit different. So like
qualified.
You can get it fixed, but it's not like how it's supposed to be.
I've got a green labeled first
Purple?
appearance of Hobgoblin, and that's all that's missing is the tattoos. It doesn't say it's been restored or anything. It's just missing one of the temporary tattoo things on the inside of the book.
I'm sorry, JJ. I'm sorry. I was one of those kids when I was small. I would take posters and the tattoos and.
Hey, we all did, dude. That's why there's so few of those things left. Like,
yeah,
I know. I look back now and I'm like, that's crazy.
But as a kid, if you can't enjoy the stuff that you've got a hold of, then what's the point?
right. The quintessential example of a qualified book that you'll see a lot out there is the Hulk 181 because it had the Marvel value stamp. And so for people that don't know, and it's a fascinating thing, the Marvel value stamp, and they sell these sometimes. I think I've seen them at auctions. They're only a couple $100. And it's super cool. Back then, kids Marvel. I don't know if it was Friends of Marvel or the MMMs or whatever the fan club was. They would give you a book and you cut out these characters in these stamps. And so I've seen some completed books. It's cool. Like, and they're not expensive to get a completed book from the 70s. But the big thing is obviously 181 had one of those stamps and a lot of kids cut it out. And so it goes from a universal grade to a green qualified grade. But again, qualified is another way of like, it's like an in-between of like an incomplete, right? It's like, you're not missing a page. You're missing like a little thing. Like you mentioned, the tattoos don't affect the story.
At all.
at all. And it's just like whatever. But yeah, restored is interesting too. It's another one to get into down the road. Like there's amateur restoration, there's professional, and it's like it doesn't matter because it's all the stigma is bad on all of them, even though like
I would say I see whole TikTok accounts that all they do is press comic books, and that's what they show people how to do is just pressing, and they're doing it with like hair dryers and a flat iron. They got like some of the most jury rigged setups I've ever seen.
so interesting. It's so interesting, man. Like,
and then, but it'll still work. They'll send it off and it'll come back with a higher grade. And I'm like, hey, if it works, who am I to judge, right?
Every now and then I'll stop. I promise this time. Every now and then I can talk about stuff all day long. So I recently got it's the Avengers, which is the first Vision.
Oh, you should have told me about this not too long ago, I think.
I got a very low grade signed by Paul Bettany. And it's remarked, he wrote, well, I was just born yesterday, and then he signed it, which I thought was super cool, whatever. And it was a very low grade. Like it was like a 2.5 or something, but I opened it up and I've never seen this before. And I guess like, I know it didn't come from CGC. They just didn't notice it when they sealed it up. There was like a thick anti-acid plastic piece in the middle of the book, probably to hold it together, so whatever, like, so it wouldn't bend and stuff. And I was like, whoa, like it just came right out. I thought it was super fast. Like the little hidden treasures you find from people that are like, I guess, like trying to either, I don't know what it is, and I found a bunch of those like from the vintage books that you get, you'll see a bunch of the acid-free wax paper, like in between the cover and the splat. I think that's fascinating too. So it's cool to see all the things people try to do to kind of like make sure their book
grade up just a little bit, like give you that extra point.
See, this could be a whole new topic. We could talk about this.
Oh yeah, no, this will definitely be a future podcast episode, 100%.
Super interesting though. It is.
Because we could go on for hours about that because there's so many little nuances.
We'll have to have Steve Borak on one time. Like he talks about like the early days of CGC, and it's interesting that they couldn't give away free grading when it first came out. Like no one wanted to. Like why would I slap my comics? And then
then I can't read them. Like it makes sense for a lot of people because I've seen a lot of people on social media that say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now those comics go for thousands to millions.
So crazy. So crazy.
Wild.
Well, I think, again, that's all the time we have for tonight. Michael, where can they find you on social media?
Anywhere. So where are the captions? We got them right here. I was going to say. Well, we go. There we go.
Follow
Bill
Michael
Rothman
on Twitter.
Got me at Superhero Talk on TikTok. Hopefully that's still around for a decent amount of time.
We'll see what happens. I told everybody, I'm like, don't freak out yet. Let's wait, see what happens, because it's not going to be a flip a switch and now it's gone. It's going to be a process they have to go through.
Exactly.
Non-stop.
Speaking of my social media, you can follow me at JJ's_comics_stuff everywhere. And once again, Batman, where can they find you at? Tell them about your Whatnot store, all that fun stuff.
So obviously, I have too many comics. I have Whatnot, which is I am Batman 915. That's the same name on TikTok. I'm not really on social media, but TikTok and Whatnot. But I mean, if you need some extra help, support, CGCs, or if you're just barely getting started, I'll send you some free stuff.
It's so ridiculous. Hold on.
I think Batman may have frozen again. Well, that I guess is our cue to get up out of here since the technical difficulties are starting up again. Thank you everybody for watching the Comic Press podcast. Luckily, we are still able to.
It's a joke, by the way.
Yeah,
that's a joke, by the way. Great handle though, but it's a joke, by the way. It's
right,
a great handle. Too many comics, but sorry, just kidding.
But yeah, so we apologize to Batman for dropping him like that because apparently I don't know what's going on with the connection, but you know how it is with live broadcasts, everybody. As always, please be safe, be kind, and take it easy, everybody.